Pakistani jets continue bombarding locations in Afghanistan. This time, reports suggest the security detail for Taliban's Supreme Leader Hibatullah Akhundzada has been attacked, even though the Pakistanis do not confirm or deny such an incident. Welcome to another episode of Let Ali Show You. Pakistan seems to be on a rampage of bombing and attacks throughout Afghanistan. From Kabul to Kandahar, Pakistani fighter jets have been carrying out bombing raids against the Taliban as well as civilian infrastructure. In the past few days, many Afghan civilians have been killed. Meanwhile, the Taliban claim to have captured checkpoints across the disputed, at least as far as the Taliban are concerned, Durand line, but the boundary or the working border. To get an understanding of where this conflict is standing as far as Pakistan and Afghanistan is concerned, at a time when the Americans and the Israelis are attacking Iran, joining us once more is a friend of the show, Sangar Pekhar. Thank you so much, Sangar. We always have these conversations, and every time I speak to you, the Pakistanis or these, pro-military accounts run by the Pakistanis attack me as being anti-Pakistan or anti-national. We've already had this conversation of where you and I both stand on this issue. You are an Afghan nationalist, and you are also a citizen of a European country. I was born and raised in Pakistan. This issue, though, is festering now and has reached a level which we haven't seen for, at least in our lifetimes, between Pakistan and Afghanistan. How do you see it at this point in time?
Well, first of all, thank you for having me. I completely understand that people would consider a dialogue between two individuals, one from Pakistan and one from Afghanistan, to be controversial when two nations are at odds with one another right now. But I would say that if we do not have these dialogues, then there is no path towards peace and stability in the region. While we have our issues, we still need to have open lines of communication, whether it's official from the governments or us just as normal citizens. With regards to your question, at this moment, we hear reports of airstrikes in Kandahar. And these reports are coming primarily from Pakistani sources. So we haven't received any confirmations from Kandahar. But usually when Pakistani sources announce on their media channels and say that they are conducting an airstrike, it is usually followed by confirmations from Afghanistan. And we can assume that a strike has been carried out earlier this evening in Kabul. However, what is very important to note is that a targeted attack on the leadership of Taliban in Afghanistan may be an option for Islamabad at this moment. We've heard officials in Islamabad say that a red line has been crossed. The drone strikes by the Afghans carried out in the last few days have even reached Rawalpindi and Islamabad. So therefore, the rhetoric has changed, and we hear now from Pakistani side that they will retaliate far more severely than what they have done so far. And this just shows that the conflict is escalating. And if you will, an escalation ladder in this conflict is on both sides. So first, the Pakistanis started conducting airstrikes in Kabul and Kandahar, which was an escalation. And then the Afghans started using drones, and those drones reached far deep in the inlands of Pakistan, which is another escalation. So it remains to be seen what is going to happen tomorrow, because if we actually get confirmation that this airstrike that allegedly has occurred today was indeed on the security service that protects the Supreme Leader in Afghanistan, then I would expect that tomorrow is going to be a very, very dark day for us, for both nations, because then we will reach a new level of escalation in the conflict.
Afghanistan does not have an air force. There are weapons that the Pakistanis claim that the Afghans are using that were left behind by the Americans. Pakistan has the sixth largest military in the world. It has aircraft from the US, from China, from France. It has sophisticated weapons. It has a nuclear weapon. How has it come to this point where a group of, as the Pakistanis like to say, ragtag militia, as they would define the Taliban, even though it's a movement, it took on the Americans for 20 years. It worked with the Pakistanis. It was close to the Pakistanis, allegedly, has taken on a military which is the sixth largest in the world. I'll try to make sense of the dynamics for us here for a second.
Well, you see, the conventional way of waging war by a state that, as you described, has more resources, legacy, and history to develop a very formal and structured military force with its Navy branch and Air Force branch and Army branch. It has its strengths, but it also has its weaknesses. When you operate against a enemy like the Taliban, you have to bear in mind that the Taliban have historically always been a guerrilla movement, and they have always operated as a guerrilla movement, which means that they have small units, they change leadership roles, they switch leadership roles, they move around swiftly, they are not confined in one place, in one spot, and attacking the Taliban by conducting airstrikes may appear effective, but we've seen this during the Soviet occupation when the Soviets would bombard Kandahar, in and around Kandahar, regions like Arghandab. They were constantly being bombarded, and back then the Mujahideen, they would hide in what is called a khares. A khares is basically an irrigation system that has been built by Afghans through centuries. It's a tunnel work below surface. People dig those tunnels to channel water for irrigation. But during war, people use those tunnels to move around a area so that they wouldn't get targeted, and so that they could carry out attacks. So during the 1980s, they did that. Then after the 1980s, after 2001, when they waged the guerrilla warfare for 2 decades, they also adopted those same techniques and methodologies. So let's just say that the Pakistanis succeed in eliminating the leadership of the Taliban, and the regime in Kabul, the government collapses, and total chaos ensues. Does that mean that the Taliban will be defeated? On the contrary, I think that they will be in their comfort zone. As a guerrilla movement, they will be in their comfort zone. And furthermore, what is also very important to note is that in the last 4 years, you mentioned that the Taliban do not have an air force. They do have some capabilities, like they have many helicopters that they have taken from the previous regime. There are some small attack aircrafts like the Tucano, but they're not very sophisticated or impressive. But what they have managed to do in the last couple of years is develop their own drones. And those drones, as were confirmed by the Pakistanis, attacked Islamabad and Rawalpindi. So if you can look at the map, anybody has access to Google Maps, and you can look at the Durand line and Islamabad, you can see the distance these drones have traveled and how they have penetrated the Pakistani airspace, and how they managed to reach those sensitive areas, whether it's Nur Khan Air Base or any other target deep in the inlands of Pakistan. This shows sophistication and adaptation to new ways of waging war. And this is also a sign that whether if Pakistan decides to send their ground forces in Afghanistan or not, they will have to face the reality that this ragtag guerrilla movement is now using very advanced technology, such as drones. And it's not going to be an easy fight. And what's very most like the most important factor that is being more or less ignored is that the Taliban have over 300,000 fighters. These 300,000 fighters exist as a force, like whether they are military or intelligence or special forces. This is a large group of people who have been trained to seek martyrdom. So they're suicide attackers. So quite a lot of them have already signed up to die. And by any means, they are going to wage war and do whatever it is required from them. Now, let's just say that if Pakistan decides to send ground forces into Afghanistan, they will have to face a guerrilla force that is far bigger than what the Americans faced in the last 2 decades, because they have managed to grow, become more institutionalized, and more developed and advanced. So this is why we see the current government in Afghanistan showing no signs of fear or reluctance. They are saying, well, if Pakistan attacks Afghanistan, so we will retaliate, and if it means war, then it will be war.
There are many elements to this. Of course, the Afghan Taliban perfected the use of suicide attackers. We've spoken about this before as well. But at the core of it, at least for Pakistan, is the presence or the utility of the Tehreek-e-Taliban Pakistan, the Pakistani Taliban, which the Pakistan military establishment calls the Fitna al-Khawarij. And it says that these groups or these individuals that are part of the TTP are in fact linked to the Afghan Taliban, and that they're using Afghan territory to target Pakistani forces. There is a military operation that is ongoing inside Pakistan for the past year and a bit. There is a political dispute around that military operation as well. There is dissent inside Pakistan on a variety of issues, and there's this perception that the Pakistan military has usurped political power. But when it comes to Afghanistan, these differences are then set aside, and then they're waging a war. So how do you make sense of all of these layers and intricacies when it comes to this situation from the Pakistani perspective as well? Try to look at it from their perspective.
I'm currently working on a report with my colleague Ahmed Walid Kakar, where we basically try to delve into this matter. But to give you a very short summary of what we have been working on is that the Pakistani government, the current government, the military leadership, is saying that Afghanistan is harboring the TTP and supporting the TTP. This has been discussed at length, and we've talked about this previously also on this show, that support for any militant group inside Pakistan that results in destabilization of Pakistan has a direct detrimental effect on security and stability in Afghanistan. We've seen in the last few decades, we've seen all the conflicts, and we've seen how the countries are interdependent because of the trade routes and everything. So it would be illogical for Afghanistan to do that. However, what is a fact is that the TTP and the Taliban have ideologically and historically had many connections with one another. They are also primarily people from the same region. They share same culture, same sometimes ethnic identity and tribal identity. So it makes sense that one would assume that the TTP and the Taliban are the same thing. But in essence, they have two different goals. The TTP wants to establish a government like the government in Afghanistan in Pakistan, based on the same ideas. However, Afghanistan has no expansionist ideology or expansionist policy at the moment, and this is not what they're trying to achieve. When the government in Pakistan, whether the opposition or the military, when they say we are unified in opposing the TTP and the Afghan Taliban, they are oversimplifying the matter. The truth is that if they want to deal with militancy and insecurity in Pakistan, they have to deal with the fact that grievances within Pakistan have driven people towards militancy. Afghans did not indoctrinate or do anything to young Pakistanis and tell them you should go and fight against your own government. Those are internal causes for militancy and instability in Pakistan. And as long as they do not address that, there is not anything specific that Afghanistan can do to assist them in this matter. However, if the government in Pakistan and the political leadership and the military, if they oversimplify the matter and just externalize the problem by saying, well, the Taliban in Afghanistan are currently in power and we are dealing with Taliban militancy here, so it's all the same thing, so we're going to wage war with them. They are basically denying causal factors for instability in Pakistan and trying to externalize it. It's a desperate move because there's no logic to it, and it's only creating more problems for them, because if they cannot subdue the TTP in Pakhtunkhwa, if they cannot subdue BLA in Balochistan, if they cannot deal with those militant groups inside Pakistan, how are they going to deal with a whole government on the other side of the Durand line? They do not have the capability, they do not have the resources, they do not have the money. And furthermore, while the political leadership and everyone else in Pakistan may be united in their desire to externalize their problems and wage a war against Afghanistan, the people in Pakistan are facing serious challenges, economic problems, repression, which means that there is not enough incentive for a 250 million population country to support their government in an adventure in Afghanistan. There are serious challenges in Pakistan. People have ideologically, theologically reasons to oppose such a war. So this is why the people in Kabul, they know all of these matters. They know exactly in what kind of predicament Pakistan is. And this is why they're not intimidated, and they think, okay, if they want to wage a war with us, we have been accustomed to war for the past decades. Nothing new under the sun. However, they do know that Pakistan has serious constraints, and this is why you see in their official statements, they still repeatedly say, we are open for dialogue. You need to address problems inside Pakistan. You need to address the fact that militants have emerged in your country due to internal problems in Pakistan. So therefore, address that and don't blame us for your own internal problems.
Obviously, mediation is a very important part of this, and the linkages between all of these groups, because they come from somewhat of a similar umbrella. In the past few days, we saw a senior leader from the Harkatul Mujahideen, formerly Harkatul Mujahideen, Fazlur Rahman Khalil, visit Afghanistan at the invitation of the Afghan Taliban leadership. He went to Kabul, and allegedly he was carrying a message from the Pakistan military leadership, even though the Pakistani state denies this completely. And now apparently Fazlur Rahman Khalil is back in Pakistan as well. Soon after this visit, or around this time, we had the Chinese foreign ministry and the foreign minister also speak to the Afghan Taliban interim, or not interim, but foreign minister Muttaqi. And then there's been statements issued by the Chinese on mediation efforts as well. There's also been previously Turkish involvement, Qatari involvement in trying to resolve this, and now relations between Pakistan and Qatar on this issue, on the issue of the Afghan Taliban and mediating, has soured somewhat as a result as well. Tell us a little bit about these specific mediation efforts, beginning with Fazlur Rahman Khalil.
The historic background of Maulana Fazlur Rahman Khalil is not something that I'm very well familiar with. All I know that he is someone who knows the Taliban leadership from the time that they were in Pakistan during the 2 decades of war when the Americans were in Afghanistan, but also even before that. So they do have some connections. However, what is very important to note is that there have been many delegations of religious figures from Pakistan coming to Afghanistan. Maulana Taqi Usmani, Maulana Fazl Rahman of GUI, and many other very senior and influential figures from Pakistan have visited Kabul, and they have discussed a very broad range of matters, and the TTP was always one of them. What we have to note in this exchange between Pakistan and Afghanistan is that these religious figures in Pakistan, they are also political. And in the case of Fazl Rahman Khalil, he was also leader of a jihadi faction. They have many ideological and theological, political overlaps with the Taliban in Afghanistan. However, they remain Pakistani citizens. They are from Pakistan, and their loyalty always remains with Pakistan. And therefore, when they come to Afghanistan, then they talk to the leadership in Afghanistan. They speak on behalf of the nation state Pakistan. And this creates a very complex dynamic where, on the one hand, they have to have the ability to relate to one another because of their shared values. On the other hand, they are opposing one another because two nations are in conflict with each other. And they also do not have any authority. So let's just say Fazl Rahman of GUI or Fazl Rahman Khalil of Harakatul Mujahideen. If they come to Afghanistan to talk to the Taliban, they have no authority. They cannot negotiate. They can only carry a message back and forth. So this is why this kind of interaction is fruitful as long as it preserves contacts between two nations. But I would not expect any kind of serious movement in the current conflict based on these interactions. For that to occur, we need decision makers in Islamabad and in Kandahar and Kabul to come to some kind of resolution with one another. And you mentioned the neighboring countries such as China, Qatar, Turkey, Saudi Arabia. They have made their efforts to come to a resolution and force both sides to make peace with one another. However, you see there is a complex dynamic here as well. Qatar and Saudi Arabia and United Arab Emirates, they have their own rivalries in the region. Similarly, Turkey has its own rivalries with the Gulf states. China is an entirely different factor. China has shared interest with Pakistan because of its investment in Belt and Road Initiative and CPEC, everything else. And they also have close ties with Pakistani military. They developed the Pakistani jet fighter. And this is why Pakistan and China have a better relationship with one another than, let's say, Afghanistan and China. But at the same time, the complexity is here that while China has a lot of commonalities with Pakistan, Pakistan has also ties with United States. And the United States is currently waging a war in Iran because they want to weaken China. Everyone thinks that Iran is being targeted just because Iran is a danger for the region, but actually it's because the fuel that is being produced in the Gulf region, 90% of all the fuel from Iran goes to China. So if China has no access to the oil from Iran, it loses a lot of fuel, and that harms Chinese economy. But they also, if the regime collapses in Iran, China will have very serious concerns because they lose a regional partner. In this conflict, Pakistan is very duplicitous in this regard because they are on the one hand on the side of the United States, United Arab Emirates, and the Gulf countries. On the other hand, they're trying to preserve their relationship with Iran and China. And in the meantime, they're also at war with Afghanistan. So this complex situation, in my opinion, creates a dynamic where we cannot expect anything from negotiations out abroad. We cannot expect anything from Turkey, Qatar, UAE, Iran, or China because they have their own share of problems at the moment, and Afghanistan, Pakistan is not their priority. Right now, the only two actors that can do anything about this conflict are the Afghans and the Pakistanis. The government in Islamabad, the current military regime in Pakistan, if they decide to carry on with this war, there isn't any other country that can prevent them. And likewise, the government in Kabul, Kandahar, if they think, you know what, we can tolerate another war, then I think that there is nothing that can be done, and they will just continue fighting.
And is this what you foresee, that they will continue fighting?
I think that something very significant is going to happen in the next few days that will decide whether this war will further escalate and become a long-term conflict, or it will subside and both nations may return to a hostile but peaceful status quo. But something big is going to happen in the next few days. And the reason why I'm saying that is because my sources in Afghanistan are saying that they're preparing to do something significant to deter Pakistan.
All right, Sangar Pekar. Let's see. If and when something happens, we will come back to you and hope that we can continue this conversation further.
Don't hold me responsible. I didn't do anything.
Well, you said something peaceful or something might happen that might reduce the conflict as well.
Yes.
So
All right.
it can go, because you have a conflict in Iran and nobody's in control of that. And Pakistan's role is quite sus in that as well. It's trying to balance different winds, right? And then you have China that wants the conflict between Afghanistan and Pakistan to end, and it is pushing ahead despite this drone attack and the retaliation from the Pakistanis. The Pakistanis don't seem to be backing out of that either. So there are many different strains that are going, and Pakistan seems to be caught in the middle of a lot of these headwinds, it seems. I'll give you the final word on that.
My final word would be that this conflict is not benefiting people in Afghanistan or Pakistan. This is what people in both sides, they need to understand. This war is not benefiting people in both sides. It's a war of desperation. And I blame the current military leadership in Pakistan for initiating this conflict because they can address TTP, BLA by addressing the grievances of those groups inside Pakistan, and they do not need to involve Afghanistan into this matter.
All right. Thank you so much, Sangar. And it's always good to speak to you. Take care of yourself. What do you guys think? Let me know in the comment section. Do like, subscribe, and share this content. I'll see you soon with an update on Afghanistan, Iran, and Pakistan. Till then, take care.